It really feels like the bookkeeping industry as a whole has gone through a bit of a transformation to say, you know what, I'm allowed to pick what kind of clients I have. I'm allowed to pick what kind of accounting software I want to use. And I'm allowed to pick what those workflows look like, to the point where if a client wants to do business with me, I actually now, in some cases, these bookkeepers almost need the permission. You now have the ability to say, you know what? No, you're not a great fit for the way that I like to work. You're not in an industry that I really feel confident in and specialize in. And so, thank you very much for your interest, but I'm going to have to say no.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a fantastic one. Our guest has trained thousands of bookkeepers in hundreds of training sessions across Canada and beyond in both desktop and online accounting software since 2012. She is currently the accountants group leader at Sage Canada, and she is very kind to take time out of her busy schedule to join me today on the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. Welcome to the show, Rachel Fisch.
Thank you so much, Michael. No pressure with that fantastic bit.
Well, I have wanted to have you on the show for a very long time. You are so well known. You're so much of a very nice personality and a person that is really the wind beneath the wings of the bookkeeping industry here in Canada, and I know across
so much.
Really around the world. And so you're very well respected, and I think our listener is going to just absolutely love hearing your story and having you as a part of the show today.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you, Michael.
Yeah. Well, first off, Rachel, for those that don't already know you, can you share a bit of your career background leading up to this point where you are now today with Sage Canada?
Sure. Absolutely. So I'm, as you mentioned, most recently, accounting group leader for Sage Canada. So I've been doing that for just over 3 months. So it's still very new. Prior to that, I was national bookkeeping leader for Deloitte in Canada. Prior to that, I did have my own bookkeeping firm for about 4.5 years out of Brandon, Manitoba. So it was kind of a small town firm. And then prior to that, I just worked in accounting roles in industry. So, when talking to bookkeepers, whether they're a bookkeeper, within an organization as an employee, or whether they have their own firm, or even if they work in mid-market or above, size firms, I've kind of been there. I've had that experience. And so I love now, being able to have all of Sage resources behind me, now continuing to connect and to advocate to those bookkeepers. So I'm really excited to do that.
Wow. So you've had quite a journey in your career. Talk about what led, like the different things that you gained along the journey that have started to help you where you are today.
Oh gosh, I don't think your podcast is long enough, Michael. I think one of the things that I've been really intentional about is making sure that when things end, and sometimes it's a positive thing, and sometimes it feels really negative at the time, there is always something to take from that to go to the next space. So for example, with working in industry, I was starting to compete. I was at the controllership level, after 15 years. So I was starting to compete with people who had their designations. I didn't. I was kind of caught in the mix of when CPAs were kind of merging the CMAs and CGAs and CAs in Canada. And so I was kind of caught in the middle of that, and the program that I was in wasn't continued. And so I was like, well, this is who I am. This is what I do. And the right employer will, still be okay with me not having a designation. And so I did, as I said, get up to that controllership level. But I was really starting to see that was going to continue to get harder kind of the further up the career ladder I climbed. I also, had a little girl at home pregnant with my second baby, and just thought there must be a better way to be using the skills that I had without, having to compete with people who did have their designation, or without, being employed at companies that really didn't understand that I was actually on their team. And the worst day of the month was not the day that I presented the financial statements, and so that kind of reflected on me a little bit. But I just felt that there's got to be a better way to help more smaller businesses. And so that's actually when I started going into business on my own. It was after the birth of my second daughter. And so I did my business plan, and I did all of that. And there was definitely a need for it. And I think that, one of the great things about bookkeeping and accounting is that there is always a need for it. Every single business needs bookkeeping functions done. Who does it, of course, differs based on the company. But I don't think it's anything that's going away anytime soon. The opportunities are just too huge. And so one of the things that I found as I was continuing to build my own business was, like in Canada, for example, there's over 30,000 bookkeepers. And yet I felt like I was like recreating the wheel. I was all by myself in my, basement office and trying to help these clients, and every client had different demands and different expectations of what that work looked like. And I kind of figured there's got to be a better way. So I started kind of connecting bookkeepers in the community and building community to help us connect with each other. And it was amazing how much, especially with the introduction of cloud technology, that being online all the time, that's just kind of a part of life now. And so it was amazing then how collaborative this community is in being able to, share workflows or share tips and tricks or all of those things to really elevate the profession and for everybody to be doing a great job. I found that being online and sharing and collaborating with other bookkeepers is definitely something that did not happen in my hometown. I think that everybody kind of saw each other as competition. I didn't. I felt there was enough business for everybody else, but that nature of collaboration certainly wasn't alive and well in my community for sure.
Interesting. It's such a powerful thing that you did. And I think anybody who can build a community like that, you really do see things differently in terms of the competitive landscape. You can think about competitors, but there's so much business out there, as you've already mentioned, that you can get so much further by collaborating with others. And you're one of those people that sees the world that way, which is why you're likely able to build such strong relationships with people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And what did you see when you were running your business and building this community, the people that you did collaborate with, what did you see as their biggest challenge out there?
Oh gosh, there's definitely a few.
We can do plural. We can definitely do plural.
Okay. I think in some cases it's pretty typical when you start your own bookkeeping practice or when you start taking on clients. It's pretty typical to just adopt the workflows that your client has. You adopt the tools and the accounting software that your clients have, and you just kind of make yourself fit in their mold or their definition of what a bookkeeper is. And it really feels like the bookkeeping industry as a whole has gone through a bit of a transformation to say, you know what, I'm allowed to pick what kind of clients I have. I'm allowed to pick what kind of accounting software I want to use. And I'm allowed to pick what those workflows look like, to the point where if a client wants to do business with me, I actually now, in some cases, these bookkeepers almost need the permission. You now have the ability to say, you know what? No, you're not a great fit for the way that I like to work. You're not in an industry that I really feel confident in and specialize in. And so, thank you very much for your interest, but I'm going to have to say no. And I think that the nature, when you think about what type of person it takes to be a really good bookkeeper, They are usually very giving, very problem solvers. They are invested in their clients and their clients' businesses. And it's like all of those things are almost at odds with saying no to a client. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge, is feeling empowered, or, for those who need the permission, I'm now giving you permission to feel empowered to say, you know what, I know who I am as a professional. I know how I like to work in the industries that I like to work with and the workflows that I like. And I also really like, a certain demographic or psychographic. There's a certain client out there that I really like to work with. So I'm going to save my time and my effort for those types of clients that are in those industries that I love. And so that this is what I'm really seeing the shift of, is it's okay to not just walk in and feel like you have to fit in somebody else's mold. You're actually allowed to create the mold and then see which of those, potential clients fit that. So I think it's a huge challenge, because it does go against the nature of our helpful nature and our wanting to solve issues for our clients. But I think it has the absolute most amazing result, because you end up happier with happier clients and ultimately more profitable, actually.
Absolutely. Just absolutely love that way you've said it. I don't know that anybody said it that clearly on the Successful Bookkeeper podcast, but it's definitely right in line with what we believe over here. And that is that you, the listener, when you actually start to dictate the way things are going to go, that's leadership. And Michael Gerber referred to it in one of our very early episodes, the author of E-Myth Bookkeeper and about 20 other E-Myth books. But what he was saying is that bookkeepers are invisible, because they're just doing it the way that it's always been done. They're actually walking in saying, okay, I'm here to do whatever it is you want me to do. But actually the person that's hiring you actually most times doesn't know what they're doing, right? And they don't have it right. And so I love that you've given everybody permission, and we're going to really ramp that up. You all have permission. Did you hear, Rachel? You've got permission to do this, you've got the permission to actually be a leader, to actually say, you know what, this is the way I've learned it. This is the way it works best. This is the way I've proven and validated that it works for me, and for, there's reasons why. And do that. And your clients will appreciate that. In fact, They will want to pay you more for it.
Yeah. Because then they see you as a partner in their business, right? When you can show them that you are personally invested in the success of their company, and you're not just a data recorder, taking numbers from paper and plugging it through a machine and sticking it out with financial statements on the other end. Like our profession has gone so far beyond that. The amount of data that we have access to now is phenomenal. The tools that we have now to work with that data is phenomenal. Like we are in such a better place to be able to advise our clients on the success of their business in a way that bookkeepers have never been in that position before. And one of the great things that I love, a lot of people are, what's the difference between bookkeepers and accountants? And what I've seen, and especially through working at my time at Deloitte, I think that has just kind of reaffirmed this, that it's really the bookkeeper that owns the relationship with the client. They're the ones that the client is going to be calling on a daily basis when something, goes wrong, or I want to buy a truck. Should I lease it? Should I pay cash for it? Like, the bookkeeper is the first person that they call. They are much more invested in the day-to-day operations of the business. They know what's going on within the business. And I think that just, elevates the whole profession to really be seen as that business partner that's really invested in their success.
I love that. Really, just this morning, I was connecting a friend of mine who's a CFO, works with a lot. He's a part-time CFO, works with different companies, helping them get ready for big financing rounds or all these different, high-end type things that you wouldn't typically hear about in small, medium-sized business. But he reached out to me and said, I need to have a coffee with you. He didn't tell me why. And I sat down. He's a great friend, so I was like, no problem. But had a coffee with him, and he's like, listen, I'm going into these companies. These are big companies, multi-million-dollar companies, and I go down to do my CFO work, and the books are a mess. I don't know what anything is. It's not correctly done. I need to find great bookkeepers. And now he knows me because I know a lot of great bookkeepers, right? But it really solidified in my mind. And I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time. It's like the need is so great. The need is so valuable, but yet what's in the minds of bookkeepers mostly, and you said there's 30,000 bookkeepers. Did you say 30,000 bookkeepers in Canada?
Yeah, and that's just from the CRA stats. So I'm positive that there's way more than that. But when you look at kind of the industry, that's what it says. Yeah,
it's mind-boggling, isn't it? It's a lot of bookkeepers, and the typical belief out there is that they're not really providing that valuable of a service. Like it's a good service needed. Yeah, sure, we need that, but it's not like that critical artery need that if you lose that, but yet it is. And so I think it's stories like this that really get through. It's like what you're doing matters. What you're doing matters for a lot of people. So I just love that. And you've got that experience from Deloitte to bring that. And I mean, that's the type of caliber of person that I was meeting with. And yet people aren't talking about it. They're not thinking that way.
Yeah, it was so funny. I was working on a client, and it was kind of a rush job. It was kind of a cleanup job. I'm sure you're really familiar with those. Submitted to the accountant group, and the accountant was literally jumping up and down and giving me a hug. She's like, I didn't even know what good bookkeeping was until I saw that. And so it makes my heart a little sad that there is so much bad bookkeeping out there. But also to me, it just means we have a huge opportunity to raise the standard of bookkeeping, to really take our industry seriously, to recognize the importance of it, because again, from that comes, are their finances in good shape to get the loans that they need to continue to operate, or, for their tax situation, things like that. It all starts with the books. So it is crucially important. You're absolutely right, Michael, but it's just making sure that we can really elevate the standard, not only for the bookkeepers to make sure that we're pumping out great work, but also to change the minds of the rest of the industry, like accountants and those dealing with books, so that they can recognize good bookkeeping, and so that they know who their options are, like as you said, your friend who reached out to you, to make sure that they get good bookkeeping in the future, that there just isn't a tolerance for bad bookkeeping. It's
absolutely right. And it does take, going back to what you said, it takes the industry to realize that it takes something to be a great bookkeeper. It takes education. I mean, you're about to do a road show through 10 cities with Sage, doing certification and training. I mean, it takes people need to go out. They need to do that certification. They need to learn more about business. They need to learn the jobs of other people. My father used to always say, understand what other people are doing around you so that you can support them and help them and know the game, right? And so as a bookkeeper, to be great, it takes work to be great, but the rewards for being great are far greater than the investment it'll take you to get there. And then the education that has to be done are things like you said, it's the listener deciding what kind of clients do you want to work with. You make that up. You make that decision, and you go out to the market with that, and you say yes and you say no. It gives you a different type of client when you're actually doing that. And so that's the beginning of it: is be great, have these things thought through, and that leads to being way more valuable and having a better business, a business that will thrive and scale.
For sure. And I get asked quite often, who is that client? Like, how do I know when I've got that really great client? And the way that I kind of define it is the clients that email you and you just kind of roll your eyes and go, oh, not them again. And then there's the ones where, you could work with a lot, and it's almost like you're energized working with them, and you really, again, feel invested in their success. those more of those ones that actually give you energy instead of sucking the life out of you. And so if in your own firm you're kind of looking at, well, what kind of clients should I continue going after? Sometimes the answer is in your own existing clients. Kind of go through and list them across the top, maybe an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. And then start listing qualities that you really like about that client, or that you like about their company or whatever. And what you'll find is that those ones that give you energy, those favorite clients of yours, they're going to have some commonalities in the descriptions that you give them. And so a great way to know what clients to start taking on are going to have those descriptors as commonalities as well. So they may be a certain, as I said, psychographic or demographic, single moms with their own home-based businesses. Like you could even get that specific. But then you know that when an opportunity comes for a large construction company with 100 staff, they're probably, even though it may seem like a very profitable engagement, it really isn't going to fit within that client type that really energizes you and makes you want to invest in their success.
I love that. It's an excellent exercise. I mean, it's maybe one of the most important exercises one can do in building their business. And it's not just for bookkeepers, it's for any person that's selling to people and doing a service business where they have to interact and work with these people, is to do that exercise. Who do you like? Where have you made the biggest difference, and where have you made the most money? I mean, that's those three things alone. Those are three criteria, and absolutely put it in a spreadsheet. I mean, we're talking about bookkeepers here, right? We got to have this organized. We have to have
exactly.
Get that in that spreadsheet. And it was just yesterday. My 2.5-year-old son, he said, "Daddy, come over closer to me." And I said, "Okay." So I came over closer to him, and I said, "What's up?" He goes, "I like you." And I said, "I like you too." But it made me feel amazing. And it's not often at this age, the age that I'm at, that where people actually tell me that they like me and say, "Come over and hang out with me. I like you. I want to be your friend." I think there's a big message in what you're saying and what my son said yesterday. And that is, find out who you really like and tell those people that you really like them when you're interacting with them. It's very powerful. And if you don't know who you like and what you want, you can't tell anybody what you like and what you want. And therefore, you're never going to be able to leverage that power, because this is work. You're doing this work every single day, day in and day out. Would you want to work with people you love and have fun with, or do you want to work with people that you don't love and have fun? I mean, it's a rhetorical question, right?
Yeah.
So beautiful message. And I'm going to encourage everyone to do this and to post on the Facebook group that you've done this exercise, and message Rachel and let her know that you've done this exercise. And what have you come up with?
Yes, please tag me on that. That would be awesome. I would love to hear your stories.
We'd love to know who you love working with, and put that out there into the ether and see what comes back. So that's just absolutely love that exercise. And like I said, Rachel, our conversation was going to go in places we had no idea it would go.
And here we are.
Exactly. So you are passionate about training. What fuels that today? And how do how did that become to be what you do? And I mean, it shows in your work. You're so passionate about it. You're out there all over the place messaging about it. Tell us more about it.
You know what? It just all comes back from those early days when I was starting my own practice, kind of trying to figure it out. And I hated that feeling of not knowing like what I was doing, or not knowing how to, treat a client in a certain way, all of those things that you kind of go through. And I just genuinely didn't want anybody to feel like that again. That's it. So whether it's, talking about how to craft your professional identity, whether it's about how to choose what niche you're going to go into, or whether it's about making sure you know everything about the software that you're using so that you can feel confident in it and use it as efficiently as possible, I absolutely want to help you with that. Or whether it's how to use social media, to really amplify your message. Like all of those things, whatever it is that you're doing in your firm, you shouldn't ever, like even if it's a firm of one, you shouldn't ever feel like you don't know how to do it. Everybody else has already recreated the wheel. All you need to do is get on the bike. So there are enough people around you. There are enough bookkeepers in communities all over the place that I just don't feel like any bookkeeper out there should feel alone or that they're just figuring something out for the first time. And I'm so passionate about that I'll take that into, kind of everything I do. So these last 6 weeks or so, I went across Canada in 14 different cities with our accounting technology tour from the Alan Salmon technology tour. And so we were doing that. We had just 45 minutes to represent Sage. And yet I really wanted to make sure that we took that time, not only to talk about the product and things that we would love for you to learn about Sage One and our products out there, but also just about us as industries, us as people, us as community connecting with each other. And so it was really great to meet all the bookkeepers across Canada. And so now we're gonna go on another tour, this time our Sage One certification tour, as you mentioned, 10 cities across Canada before Christmas. And then we're going to come back around before tax time. I promise we're not going to interrupt anybody during tax time. Again, just to make sure that they have all of the knowledge and resources they need to again, never feel alone and never feel like they can't figure something out.
It's beautiful. We feel the same way here. It is the mortal enemy of any business owners to do it alone. And unfortunately, many people do feel alone, but it's communities like Sage and the Technology Seminar and the Institute of Professional Bookkeepers and the ICB in the US. I mean, there's all sorts of resources around you that are available. So I've been there. I've been where the low point, it's like, where you feel that you're alone, often is the very difficult place to get out of that space. So do yourself a favor and don't let yourself get in that space by getting out there, connecting. You see a seminar or something that you can get out of the office or wherever you're working to be amongst other people. It is so important to do. So make a point of doing it, if not once, twice, 4 times a year. Get out, go to these conferences, go to these trainings, be amongst your people. It will be worth the investment of time and money.
Absolutely.
Just love it. And you are such an advocate for everyone doing this. Now, this 10-city tour you're going to do, are you going to be there personally doing some of the trainings? What will that look like?
I am actually. Again, I just started at Sage about 3 months ago, and I wanted to, especially within this first year, take every opportunity I could to really connect with bookkeepers in our community. And so, I went on all 14 cities of that accounting technology tour. I will absolutely be at all 10 cities that we're going to again. And for this next year, I will try to be out to as many events as possible. I also have with me, especially for the certification tour, Mark Hubbard, who is the program manager for the accountants group at Sage. And so the two of us are going to be out and across Canada as often as we can, just connecting with you guys and again, making sure that you have all the knowledge and resources that you can to build your firm.
That's incredible. Well, you know what? What an investment that your Sage is making into the community right across the country. And of course, there will be links on this episode. Just click down there and you can go and find out where those cities are. And of course, there will be, if you miss this one, there's going to be another. So get it on your calendar, go to the link, get it on your calendar, and make sure you take advantage of that. So
absolutely.
You're working, a lot of change happening out there with technology. Mm-hmm. What are the ingredients bookkeepers need to thrive as new technologies appear?
Oh, gosh. Oh, that's a big one.
Well, yes, we want a secret recipe, right? This is ingredients. We want the recipe for success here. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a couple of things to keep in mind when we're talking about technology, because I think that in the bookkeeping world, technology is just, it seems to be just hitting so hard and so fast. It really does feel overwhelming. And it feels like it's hard to keep up with it all. Because again, there's more tools coming out all the time. What I would say is, those apps or those tools that you do use, learn them well. I think that people have the idea that they need to learn everything that's out there, and they really don't. You can kind of break down, one of the first things that you can break down with technology is which are going to serve you in your firm and which are going to serve your clients. So for example, when I look at an app, I look at it and say, okay, is this something that I'm going to use for myself to help me manage my clients and help me manage my workload? Or is this the type of app that I'm going to refer to a certain type of client that may need that function? So I think that's the first thing to really differentiate, is whether it's something that only you need to use and to kind of become a bit of an expert on, or whether you're actually going to start, integrating these tools into your client's workflow. So that's a good one. Another one is just being mindful of the technology intelligence of your clients as well. Even if there are tools that you have learned to love and that you're really excited about, sometimes your clients can't learn maybe quite as quickly as you. So just keep that in mind when you are teaching them new tools, to make sure that you're not keeping them at a faster pace than they can handle as well. Just kind of remember how overwhelmed you were when you got hit with all this technology. Keep that in mind as you continue to teach your clients. So yeah, I think it's just that mindfulness, and also that you don't need to be trying or signing up for every webinar that comes your way or every app that gets launched, because again, it becomes really overwhelming. So what I would say is, okay, out of all of these timesheet apps, for example, all these time tracking apps, I know one that I really love. So when a new one comes out, it's not, oh, now I have to learn that one. Is how does it compare to that one that I know that I really love that works great? And if it doesn't, then I don't even have to waste my time, going to the webinar or doing that. You can usually, apps do have comparative charts like on their websites and things, what they do and what they don't do. So use that first. We don't get paid for time that we're not working on our clients' stuff. So just incorporate that into your workflows and your regular daily life. Make sure that you can, compare the apps that you need to, but not waste your time on things that you don't.
Beautiful. Well said. I think you've nailed one of the big pain points, is the time that goes into learning all these different apps. And there's a lot of messaging in the marketplace around the technology. I mean, that's the job of technology companies, to get their message out, to bring you aware of this. And all of these things, there are definite benefits, but it's not like you've got to get this all done tomorrow. It is, right. There is a need right now. Your most important need, like I think what you're saying is your client, wherever your client is, and then look at how can we bridge that gap and bring people further along the technology ecosystem as you grow. But I don't think the overwhelm needs to be there. And I'm glad that you brought that up. I think we hear that a lot, the overwhelm, there's so much change, so many things are happening. Sometimes that can be a negative stress. So turn it into a positive stress and be excited about what's to come.
Yeah, that there are bigger, better, awesome tools coming out. And actually switching over to the software world, like I did just a few months ago, prior to that, I was doing the job, or I had my own firm, or I was in a large practice. Being on the software side, it's been really interesting to kind of see that shift. And one of the things that I really respect is when software companies hire people who have done the job before, especially if their audience is accountants and bookkeepers. So I would always consider the source. Like, is this coming from the marketing department of a software company? Or is this coming from people who have done the work before and really know what bookkeepers value and what their clients value? So I usually keep that tucked in the back of my mind as well.
Absolutely. I think that's where what's powerful about any event that you go to, where there's industry, people that are in your industry, they're your peers, demoing, Absolutely. Showing, sharing, very, very powerful, and so much more. Not that a software company can't demo and display and tell you everything that's great about it, but when you see somebody who's sitting next to you that's using in their own practice, I mean, it's so much more powerful.
Absolutely, because then it goes from not from what the software is supposed to do, but then it shifts to how am I going to use this for my client? And it just kind of puts in context what your workflow would actually look like or how much of an impact it would make in your practice.
Absolutely. Rachel, this has been absolutely fantastic having you, and I have a feeling we could probably keep on chatting for another couple hours.
But sure.
We'll definitely want to have you back and learn more about what you've discovered through your road shows and your work with Sage. But until then, where can people find out more about you?
Oh, gosh. So I'm on LinkedIn, Rachel Fisch. I'm on Twitter at FishBooks. And we also have our Sage Facebook group, Canadian Sage Advocates. So look us up and I'd love to connect with you guys. And of course, on The Successful Bookkeeper.
Beautiful. And we'll have a bunch of links at the bottom where you can find out more about the 10 City Roadshow that's coming up in your area. Check for that. Get it on your calendar. If not now, get it in for the next round. So again, we really enjoyed having you, and we definitely want you to come on back.
Thank you so much, Michael.
That wraps another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.